They fired me over a bad attitude. Then saw my face on Forbes. The rain hammered against the windows of Morrison & Associates marketing agency in downtown Chicago, when Jennifer Morrison's assistant appeared beside my desk like a harbinger of doom. "Alex, Miss Morrison wants to see you in her office." Now, my stomach dropped. In 3 years at the agency, I'd never been summoned without notice. I grabbed my notebook and walked past my colleagues. Curious stares toward the executive wing. Jennifer Morrison sat behind her mahogany desk, silver hair pulled back severely, reading glasses perched as she reviewed a manila folder. She didn't look up when I entered. "Sit down, Alex." The silence stretched uncomfortably as she continued reading, occasionally making notes with her expensive fountain pen. "Tell me," she finally said, closing the folder and fixing me with cold gray eyes. "What do you think your role is at this company?" "I'm a senior account executive. I manage client relationships, develop marketing strategies." "Wrong," she cut me off. "Your role is to do what you're told, when you're told, period." I felt my face flush. "Ms. Morrison, my performance reviews have always been excellent. I've brought in 3 major clients this year alone. What concerns me is your attitude. You question everything. You challenge decisions. Last week, when I presented the Davidson campaign strategy, you actually contradicted me in front of the client." I remembered the meeting. Davidson Industries was about to launch a campaign targeting the wrong demographic with tone-deaf messaging. I had tried to be diplomatic, but couldn't let them waste $500,000. That campaign would have been a disaster. Would have what? Been successful. "The client loved my presentation until you opened your mouth with your concerns." She made air quotes. "Do you know how long I've been in this business? 25 years. I was building campaigns when you were in high school. Market research shows—" "Enough." She slammed her hand on the desk. "This is exactly what I'm talking about. Even now, you're arguing with me." She opened the manila folder and pulled out a document. "This is your termination notice. Your employment is terminated immediately." The words hit like a physical blow. "You're firing me? For doing my job? I'm firing you for insubordination, for having a toxic attitude, and for being unable to work as part of a team." She slid the document across. "Security will escort you out." I stared at the termination letter, words blurring. "This is insane. You're firing your best performer because I care about results. I'm firing my biggest headache. Someone who thinks they know better than everyone else and creates a hostile work environment with constant negativity." 2 security guards appeared within minutes. I stood on shaky legs, mind reeling with the injustice. "And this is a mistake," I said, voice barely above a whisper. Jennifer Morrison had already returned to her paperwork. The only mistake was hiring someone who couldn't understand their place. Good luck finding another position with that attitude. They waited while I packed my belongings into a cardboard box. Family photos, coffee mug, a plant from my mom, and industry awards that now felt meaningless. The walk to the elevator felt like a funeral march. Outside, the rain soaked through my blazer within seconds. I stood on the sidewalk, clutching my box, watching busy Chicago street life continue as if nothing had happened. I called my wife, Sarah. "Hey, how's your day going?" She answered cheerfully. "I got fired." The words tumbled out. "What? Alex, what happened?" "Morrison said I have a bad attitude, that I'm insubordinate." I laughed bitterly. 3 years of exceeding targets, and she fires me for caring about doing the right thing. As I hailed a taxi, something inside me hardened. Jennifer Morrison thought she was teaching me about knowing my place, but what she had actually done was set me free from a system that punished excellence and rewarded mediocrity. The taxi pulled up, and I climbed in with my cardboard box of memories. As we pulled away, I didn't look back. I was done looking backward. If you want to see how this story of betrayal turns into the ultimate revenge success story, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Because what happens next will blow your mind and change everything you think you know about turning failure into fortune. The first week brought a blur of rejection emails and unanswered calls. I had been confident my track record would speak for itself. I was wrong. "I'm sorry, Alex," said Tom Richardson at Creative Solutions. "Your work speaks for itself, but we made some calls for references, and the feedback wasn't entirely positive." My heart sank. "What kind of feedback?" "You can be difficult to work with. Problems with authority figures." He avoided eye contact. Companies want team players who work within established structures. Jennifer Morrison's poison had spread through Chicago's tight marketing community. A bad reference from a respected agency owner was career suicide. 3 weeks of similar scenes at different offices. Each interview started with enthusiasm and ended with uncomfortable conversations about my attitude problem. Sarah found me one evening surrounded by rejection emails and job listings. Maybe look outside Chicago, she suggested gently, or even outside marketing. I don't want to run away, and I don't want to abandon everything I've worked for, because one vindictive woman decided to destroy my reputation. Then maybe the industry needs to change. I walked to a park overlooking the lake that night. The October wind cut through my jacket as I sat on a bench, staring at dark water reflecting city lights. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus, my former colleague. Davidson campaign launched this week. Complete disaster. Stock dropped 8% first day. Client furious. Everyone knows you were right, but no one will say it. I stared at the message, then smiled for the first time in weeks. Jennifer Morrison had fired me for being right. She had destroyed my reputation for trying to save a client from a costly mistake. But instead of vindication, I felt determination. If the industry wouldn't let me work within it, I would work around it. If they wouldn't let me fix their mistakes, I would create a company that didn't make those mistakes. I opened my phone and started typing. What if the problem isn't that I have a bad attitude, but that I've been working in environments that punish good thinking? What if instead of trying to fit into someone else's company, I created my own? Why was I begging others to hire me when I could hire myself? I had skills, experience, and a network of clients who knew my work. The only thing I lacked was courage to bet on myself. Walking home felt different. Same streets, same buildings. But I was seeing them through entrepreneurs' eyes now. This wasn't the end of my career. It was the beginning of something bigger. How was your walk? Sarah asked when I got home. Life-changing. I'm done looking for a job. I'm starting my own company. Starting a business from our spare bedroom was humbling. The space that once stored Sarah's craft supplies became headquarters of Sterling Strategy Solutions, a name chosen after 3 sleepless nights. My first challenge was credibility. How do you convince clients to trust their marketing budget to a guy in his spare bedroom? The answer was to stop hiding who I was and start leveraging what made me different. I created a simple website with a radical promise. We tell you the truth, even when it's not what you want to hear. Instead of corporate speak about partnership, I was honest. If you want someone to rubber stamp your ideas, we're not for you. If you want someone who will ask hard questions and build campaigns that actually work, let's talk. My first real lead came from David Chen at Davidson Industries, the same company whose campaign I had tried to save. And I remember you from that meeting, his email read. You tried to warn us about the demographic mismatch. We should have listened. Our campaign was a disaster. Can we talk? We met at a Loop coffee shop. David didn't waste time with pleasantries. That campaign cost us $600,000 and did permanent brand damage, he said. Morrison insisted we were targeting right, but post-campaign analysis showed exactly what you predicted. I'm sorry it didn't work out. Don't be sorry. Be available. We're launching a new product line in 6 months, and we want someone who will tell us the truth from day one. That conversation led to my first contract. A $50,000 project developing complete marketing strategy for Davidson's sustainable office furniture line. I threw myself into research with intensity that worried Sarah. I studied Davidson's customers, competitors, market position, and brand perception. What I discovered was fascinating. Their failures weren't just about poor targeting. They fundamentally misunderstood their brand identity. You're not selling furniture, I told David in our strategy presentation. You're selling a vision of the future workplace. Your customers aren't buying desks and chairs. They're buying into an idea of what work can be when it's sustainable and human-centered. The campaign we developed focused on transformation, how the right workspace could transform not just productivity but purpose. Results were immediate and dramatic. Within the first month, Davidson saw a 300% increase in qualified leads. More importantly, they were attracting the right customers, companies valuing sustainability, and willing to pay premium prices. Word spread through Chicago's business community faster than expected. My phone started ringing with inquiries from companies burned by agencies promising easy solutions and delivering generic results. Within 6 months, I had 5 regular clients and was billing more per month than my best year at Morrison & Associates. More importantly, I was doing work that mattered, but success brought challenges. I was working 12-hour days, managing multiple projects, trying to maintain quality that earned me clients. "You need help," Sarah said after I finished a 9 p.m. client call. "You're going to burn out." I began building a network of talented freelancers who shared the same principles. We weren't just a company, we were a movement of professionals refusing to accept mediocrity. By year end, Sterling Strategy Solutions had generated over $400,000 in revenue with a waiting list of potential clients. Every single client had seen measurable improvements. The real validation came when Marcus texted, "Did you see the Trade magazine article about innovative Chicago agencies? You made the list." Guess who didn't? Morrison & Associates wasn't mentioned anywhere. I sat back, looking around the spare bedroom that had become a symbol of everything I built from nothing. In 18 months, I had gone from unemployed and blacklisted to running one of Chicago's most talked-about agencies, but I had a feeling this was just the beginning. The call came on a Tuesday morning as I reviewed campaign analytics for a sustainable fashion startup that had quadrupled online sales in 3 months. "Mr. Sterling." "This is Rebecca Martinez from Forbes magazine. I'm working on a feature about innovative entrepreneurs disrupting traditional industries. Would you be interested in speaking?" I nearly dropped my coffee. Forbes. The magazine I had read religiously during my MBA, dreaming of running a company worth their attention. The interview took place at a downtown coffee shop. Rebecca was sharp, intelligent, making me understand why she worked for such a prestigious publication. "Tell me about the moment you decided to start your own agency." I found myself telling the whole story. The firing, blacklisting, desperate job search, and the moment of clarity when I realized I'd been playing the wrong game. "So Jennifer Morrison firing you was actually the best thing for your career." At the time, it felt like the end of the world, but she forced me to bet on myself instead of hoping someone else would recognize my value. 3 weeks later, Rebecca called with news that made my hands shake. "The article is going to be the cover story. We're calling it The Disruption Generation: How Fired Employees Are Revolutionizing Their Industries. You're the lead feature, the cover story. Your face is going to be on the cover of Forbes, Alex." The Forbes issue hit newsstands on Thursday. I met Marcus for coffee to share the moment with someone who had witnessed my lowest point. "This is insane," he said, sliding a magazine copy across. "You're on the cover of Forbes." There I was, with the headline, "Fired for having a bad attitude. Now he's disrupting an entire industry. Have you seen the online reactions?" Marcus showed me his phone. "The article is trending on LinkedIn. Everyone's sharing their own terrible boss stories." The comment that got my attention was from Tom Richardson, who had rejected me 2 years earlier. I remember interviewing Alex Sterling and passing due to difficult personality concerns. Reading this Forbes article, I realized I was probably getting biased reference information. Sometimes what looks like bad attitude is actually high standards. The article's impact was overwhelming. Interview requests flooded in from podcasts, journals, TV shows. Companies nationwide reached out wanting Sterling Strategy Solutions. But the most satisfying response came from an unexpected source. "There's someone here to see you," my assistant said. "Amanda Torres from Morrison & Associates. She's the new CEO." Amanda Torres was confident, suggesting she'd earned her position through results rather than politics. "Mr. Sterling, I'll be direct. Morrison & Associates is struggling. We've lost major clients, and our reputation has taken hits. We need to rebuild, and we need someone with your vision. You want to hire me as a consultant? I want to offer you partnership. Come back as Chief Strategy Officer, with equity and complete autonomy over strategic direction." It was generous, probably more money than my agency, plus resources of an established firm. What happened to Jennifer Morrison? Asked to step down by the board 6 months ago, the Davidson disaster was just the beginning. Several campaigns failed spectacularly. The board felt it was time for new leadership. The irony was perfect. The woman who fired me for my bad attitude had been fired for the very problems I'd tried to help her avoid. "Missy Torres, I have to decline." She looked surprised. Can I ask why? 2 years ago, your company destroyed my reputation because I refused to compromise standards. Now that you're struggling, you want me to fix problems that could have been avoided if anyone had listened. I've built something here that's bigger than just a marketing agency. We're proving businesses can succeed by prioritizing honesty over harmony. Why would I give that up? After she left, I thought about the journey from fired employee to Forbes cover story to turning down my former employer's desperate offer. It felt like complete vindication. But more than that, proof that success isn't about finding the right boss or company. It's about having courage to bet on yourself when everyone else is betting against you. 1 year after the Forbes cover, I stood before 500 marketing professionals at the Chicago Marketing Innovation Summit, the same event where I'd once attended as a junior employee. "How many of you have been told you have a bad attitude at work?" I asked. Half the hands went up, followed by nervous laughter. "And keep them up if you were told this, because you questioned strategies that didn't make sense, or pushed back on decisions that would hurt clients." Most hands stayed up. "Congratulations. You've just identified the future leaders of this industry." Thunderous applause. In 3 years since being fired, I'd learned my story wasn't unique, it was universal. The industry was full of talented people, silenced or pushed out for refusing to accept mediocrity. Sterling Strategy Solutions now employed 12 full-time staff and 30 freelancers, with offices in Chicago, Austin, and Denver. Our client roster included Fortune 500 companies and innovative startups. After my speech, dozens approached sharing stories of workplace frustration and dreams of starting businesses. "I want to do what you did," said a young woman named Jessica. "But I'm scared. What if I fail? What if you succeed? What if the thing you're most afraid of failing at is actually what you're most meant to do?" That conversation sparked a decision I'd been contemplating. What if we could help more people break free from toxic environments and build careers on their own terms? 6 months later, we launched the Sterling Accelerator program. The first cohort included 15 professionals who'd been fired, laid off, or quit toxic jobs and wanted to build something better. Among participants was Marcus, finally tired of watching good ideas get buried under bureaucracy. There was David Chen, wanting to start his own consultancy. But the most meaningful participant was Jennifer Collins, fired from Morrison & Associates for having a bad attitude. "They said I was too argumentative," Jennifer told me, "that I asked too many questions." Sound familiar? Over 6 months, I watched Jennifer transform from defeated employee to confident entrepreneur, specializing in data-driven marketing for sustainable brands. The accelerator became incredibly successful. Within the first year, participants launched 12 businesses, generated over $2 million in collective revenue, and created dozens of jobs. But the real validation came from the most unexpected source. My assistant knocked on my door, trying to suppress a smile. "Someone here to see you. She says she has a business proposition." When Jennifer Morrison walked into my office, I barely recognized her. The severe, authoritarian woman who'd fired me looked smaller, less imposing. "Alex," she began, then cleared her throat. "Mr. Sterling, thank you for seeing me. What can I do for you? I owe you an apology. What I did was wrong, not just firing you, but destroying your reputation afterward. I let ego and fear override judgment about what was best for the company." "What changed your mind?" "Everything. Losing my company, watching you succeed, seeing the industry move toward exactly what you advocated, but mostly my daughter." "Your daughter?" "She's 25, starting her career. Last month she asked advice about speaking up regarding a flawed strategy. Afraid of being labeled difficult, I found myself giving her advice I should have given myself. That being right is more important than being comfortable. I appreciate the apology, but if you're here to offer me a job, I'm here to ask if you'd consider letting me join your accelerator program." That genuinely surprised me. "You want to start your own business?" "I want to learn how to build a company that succeeds because of its principles, not despite them. I have 30 years of experience, but I've spent most doing things wrong. I'd like to spend remaining time doing them right." 3 months later, Jennifer Morrison joined our third accelerator cohort. Watching her work alongside younger professionals, asking questions instead of giving orders, was remarkable transformation. Her business concept was helping traditional companies transition from hierarchical, ego-driven cultures to collaborative, results-driven environments. She called it leadership evolution, with the tagline, "Teaching old bosses new tricks." The day of our third cohort's graduation, I stood before 15 new entrepreneurs ready to change their industries. 3 years ago, I was fired for having what my boss called a bad attitude. That firing felt like the end of the world, but it turned out to be the beginning of everything that mattered. Today, that same boss is sitting in our audience, about to launch her own business based on principles she once rejected. This isn't about revenge or vindication. It's about the power of staying true to your values, especially when everyone tells you you're wrong. As I looked at faces in the audience, participants, alumni, clients, partners, and Jennifer Morrison, I realized my journey was about something bigger than professional success. It was about proving that integrity isn't a luxury you afford after becoming successful. It's the foundation that makes real success possible. After the ceremony, Sarah and I walked to our car through Chicago evening, the same city where my professional life had once seemed to end. "So what's next?" she asked. "Maybe it's time to write a book. They fired me for having a bad attitude, and it was the best thing that ever happened. Because somewhere out there, people are being told they have bad attitudes for having high standards. People being punished for caring too much, for asking hard questions, for refusing to accept mediocrity as the price of keeping jobs. Maybe my story could help them realize that getting fired for the right reasons might be the best thing that ever happens to their careers." The rain started falling as we pulled into our driveway. The same Chicago rain that had soaked me on the worst day of my professional life. But this time, instead of feeling like the end, it felt like the beginning of whatever came next. Because when you've learned to bet on yourself, when you've built something reflecting your values instead of compromising them, when you've turned your greatest disaster into your most meaningful success, there's really no limit to what you can do next. The bad attitude that got me fired had become the foundation of everything I built afterward, and that was a story worth sharing.